Hey, this is Tom Jacobs from tdjacobs.com. I'm an evolutionary astrologer and also a channel and an energy worker and also a psychic medium. And at tdjacobs.com, you'll find a bunch of tools to help you along your journey wherever you are. Readings, consultations, tutoring, energy work sessions, programmed crystals such as moldavite, which I just posted a bunch new pieces of moldavite the other day. And books and all kinds of things. So that's at tdjacobs.com. And also at healingsuicide.com, my other site, I have info on how suicide affects the soul, how the soul understands your multi-life journey, how to deal better with emotions that can make us feel like we're pushing ourselves toward that kind of thing. So anyway, tdjacobs.com for a bunch of tools and healingsuicide.com for a bunch of info on soul, its multi-life journey, and how to heal residues and also being a survivor of somebody else's suicide. So this video is on the true Black Moon Lilith natal aspects with Mercury. This is a third in a series. I've already done the Sun and Moon natal aspects. I do have a book called Lilith, Healing the Wild, which goes into detail about all my teachings about Lilith. But the first third is are essays on culture, mythology, psychology, and healing. The latter two-thirds is all about astrology. So some people have complained because it's an astrology book, and I'm like, it says it's an astrology book. And also the True Black Moon Lilith Natal Report, which is available through tdjacobs.com on the Natal Reports page. And I wrote this in 2008, so it's been quite a while. And it will take your natal true Black Moon, the oscillating apogee, through natal house, sign, and aspects, and also transits and progressions to your natal true Black Moon for 5 years. So go get the True Black Moon Lilith Natal Report at tdjacobs.com. So the idea, my basic idea with Lilith, the true Black Moon is not the mean position, but the oscillating apogee. The mean position is its motion averaged out so that our minds, the intention is, can manage the data better. Well, the archetype of Lilith is erratic, and the oscillating apogee is a point that is calculated, it's a function of the moon's, so to speak, imperfect orbit around the Earth. So the gravitational pull of each affects the others, so it's not just the moon orbiting the Earth's axis. So the oscillating apogee is always changing. You can go find out why that is. I'm not the technical expert on that astronomy part. But the point is, it's an erratic energy within us. It's changeable. So I don't start with Lilith as the mother of all demons and as something to be feared and made wrong and vilified and punished and damaged. So that's the position in the True Black Moon Lilith Natal Report, as well as Lilith Healing the Wild. I begin with, this is a natural part of us. Let's understand how to make peace with it. So Lilith for me is the instinctive wild that lives within the root chakra. You can think of it as the first or root chakra. You can think of it as when you get a computer and it has Windows already installed, the operating system already installed. It's like that. You're born with the wisdom of the natural world already in your system. So instinctively, we say yes and no. We feel with our biochemistry and our energy and our emotions and also our physical body if something doesn't work for us or if something does. But it's pre-logical. So the wild is typically thought of as the feminine, which is stereotyped as changeable and irrational. Well, the real core of that is that we've grown into these brainy beings who fear and judge and shame everything that can't be controlled. So Lilith within us is the wisdom of the natural world that says yes and no pre-logically, pre-rationally. It's not irrational. It's before reason even comes in, before ration comes in. So I strongly encourage you to use the true Black Moon, the oscillating apogee, which is, if you use astro.com, H13, where you can add asteroids and other bodies in that little box on extended chart selection page. Do not use the mean position. It is like asking a blow-up doll what a woman is like. Okay, so instinct, right? A connection to the natural world. This is a kind of basis of Lilith. Also this idea of, I can't explain to you why I have to say no to this or why I cannot not say yes to this. So there's an instinctive drive with this. This can be intense attraction. It can be intense repulsion. So then we have Mercury in your chart is about perception, left brain, logic, planning, ideas, perception, and communication. So how you perceive, how you filter information, what you're interested in learning about, but then also how you process and file it in your head. That's Mercury. So it is about your voice, but it's also about how you seek and how you process and store information. It's about all those things. So when the energy of the natural instinctive wild comes in contact with your Mercury, your left brain is affected. So starting with the conjunction, and I use a conjunction, I use an orb of 8 degrees, which is standard. How you communicate may be erratic, but it will also be your interests could be all over the place or changeable. You could be interested in earthy subjects, in nature itself, in the processes of nature, in natural things that are pre-rational, pre-verbal, pre-logical. The way you speak might carry a primal, I haven't used that word yet for Lilith in this video, but that's a good word for it, a primal affect, right? You might have a primal energy in your voice. You might need to primally emote and speak your feelings that may be all over the place because it's conjunct Lilith. Conjunctions merge together. If you have true Black Moon Lilith within 8 degrees of your Mercury, we can't talk to one without the other. So people may want you to be consistent because we want Mercury to be relatively consistent. It does rule Gemini. One of the signs it rules is Gemini, and we have that openness, curiosity, flexibility idea that comes in. But more or less, in our left brains, we want other people's left brains to be stable and consistent. With Lilith, you might be all over the place. Again, you might be interested in certain things in a very deep way. You might process, mental things physically, viscerally, because it pulls in your root chakra. When something really speaks to you, it engages your whole body, and you're all present. So that's the conjunction idea. I actually have this, and there are other things in my chart that have me able to focus on certain things sometimes, but I do notice that I can be very distracted by by certain things I'm interested in and want to learn about and get this single-minded focus, and I feel it in my body. I feel my interest. I feel my focus and attention in my body because it grounds, my brain in a certain way. So moving on to the sextile. Sextiles are about 60 degrees, and we use an orb of about 6 degrees, which is standard, and that's stimulating. It's like poking or tickling. It's basically saying, hey, I want your attention until you respond. So the energy of the instinctive natural wild, including your visceral, physical, primal yes-no function, is triggering your brain and vice versa. So it's less about being interested in Lilith themes and more about being distracted by Lilith realities. So you're going to pick up, you're going to say, well, here's what I'm doing today. I have this plan, and here's my little list. That's a Mercury thing. And then you might be really drawn off course and feeling pushed and pulled and stimulated by shiny things out of the corner of your eye because of Lilith. And so it can be very distracting if you're not grounded. Now, it also sends you information because that poking, hey, I want your attention, that's actually giving you new insights that can drive your mercurial evolution. So people with Lilith sextile Mercury may find the world, day-to-day reality, full of opportunities that are very distracting if they let that energy of the wild be present in their lives. Moving on to the square, about 90 degrees, and we use an 8-degree orb, which is standard. All these aspects that I'm using are standard. And squares, pressure and friction, create friction, offer pressure, and push on each other. So with Mercury, you're trying to do something, you're intending to do something, you have a linear, logical plan of your mental, organized Virgoan or Geminian self, and you may be pushed at from the side, which is, it's one possibility of being distracted like the sextile, but it's a different feel. It's being pushed, like you're going on your way and something's pushing at you from the side. That's the energy of a square. And you might have to course correct periodically or all the time based in something real that comes to you. So think of Lilith energy as representing the natural world, the way things are, the way people are, as people are changeable, and that might push against your plan. So sometimes with squares, we want to keep that information out, in which case it may continue to push. It may even be like tectonic plates over long time periods. Like this one's moving this way, this one's moving this way, and they push, right, until eventually one of them slips and there's a little earthquake. Sometimes that's what a square is like if you defend against the other perspective or the new perspective. Now in people terms, like when people square you, somebody's saying to you, hey, you could do it this other way and there'd be benefit, but you're trying to do things your way. Why would you change? So when somebody squares you, they're telling you to do it differently than you're naturally inclined to do it. And so as you're living your Mercury life, if a person shows up in your life to represent Lilith, that person will square you and say, hey, did you ever consider this? And it's some natural, earth-based, pagan-like, physical, earthy, primal, instinctive, sexual. It's some kind of Lilith-like perspective or opinion that challenges what your brain was doing. So if with a square between Lilith and Mercury natally, if you're open, your Mercury can change quite a lot. So check defensiveness against being told you're wrong. But what I mean is perceiving that you're being told you're wrong, when in fact you're being offered an opportunity to expand your perspective. Now, moving on to the trine, which is 120 degrees, and again, 8 degrees of orb, pretty standard is what I use. This is a boost and a flow of information. They're cheerleading each other, and they're sending each other notes in class. Whatever one is doing, the other says, hey, that looks great, keep doing it, keep it up. So if your Lilith is bitter because of feeling punished for being instinctive, I didn't mention that in this video, but on all my other Lilith teachings, I mentioned that idea of sometimes people are made wrong for being Lilith because they challenge the status quo. They bring their individual perspective and they can't be controlled, so they may be vilified. If your Lilith is feeling bitter because all men are like this or all women are like this, something like that, then your Mercury will say, yeah, here are the data. Here are 10 more instances this week that I observed. So they'll support each other. If, on the other hand, your Lilith is free and open and you're willing to be in your body, connected to instinct, eating the way your body wants you to eat, dealing with your emotions, having autonomy, more themes about Lilith that are covered in the Natal Report as well as the Healing the Wild book. If you're in touch with Lilith and letting her inside you work appropriately and healthily, then the Mercury you'll devise ways of developing rhythms. You'll gather new information. You'll have communication. You'll have conversations. You'll learn new things about supporting Lilith energy and rhythms. So whatever one is doing, the other is supporting. You have to make sure your Lilith isn't bitter and your Mercury isn't closed-minded. Moving on to the last aspect here, it's the opposition, and it's 180 degrees. They're in opposite parts of the chart from each other. Here's the wheel, one's here, one's here. Again, 8 degrees of orb with the true Black Moon Lilith and Mercury. 8 degrees of orb is standard. So oppositions reveal something to you that you probably don't want to know because you're doing what you're doing. Like you're making a choice. The square is like this pressure from the side. The opposition is a full-on reflection. Did you know this about yourself? That can be difficult if you feel that you don't have the room to do what you need to do, because somebody might be saying to you, do you realize there's a flaw in your plan? Do you realize you're thinking about it all wrong? And that can feel criticism, right? Feel to be criticism, but it can also be constructive help because maybe you do need to see something. You should assume with an opposition, with natal oppositions, that you do need to see an alternate perspective than what you alone can see. Because think about it, in your chart, those are all elements of your psyche, but you need others to bring them to life. So if you are doing your Lilith, Mercury will oppose you. If you're doing your Mercury, other people as Lilith will oppose you. So the idea is the instinctive wild, the instinctive sense of, yes, I need to do this, no, I cannot do that, and not being able to explain why I have to do it or I can't. That opposes the plan of your linear logical mind. You may find that as it relates to manifesting in other people, you may find that you're trying to communicate something that you feel is very simple and other people won't sit still long enough to listen. or other people can't hear it, or don't care about the logical process you used to arrive at your destination. They don't care because they need to be visceral, primal, in their body, moving, grounded, in their hearts, autonomous. So anyway, you might find that your efforts to manage something, in fact, are shown to you as negative control patterns. Something that Mercury can do is get into control patterns. So just realize that when somebody else is erratic or changeable or instinctive or wild or can't be pinned down, you're supposed to see the value in being present. That's a good Lilith keyword because you're visceral, primal, in your body, instinctive, and not just in your head, which is what your Mercury will tend to want to do 24/7. So you can learn from a different way of being if you're willing to learn. So that's it for this video. Check out the True Black Moon Lilith Natal Report on tdjacobs.com on the Natal Reports page, and also Lilith Healing the Wild. And I didn't mention this earlier, but there is an audio set, I believe it's about 7 hours of going in depth with Lilith, called the Lilith Intensive MP3 set on my Learn Astrology page. So take care of yourself and check out tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com for more info on what I do. Take care.